go ahead and have the popsicle. Go ahead and eat of the fruit. No, corn syrup's not bad for you. It's quite good for you. And then she'll give him some scientific stuff, and the husband admits, or the boyfriend admits he's an idiot. Or there'll be another moron woman who the queen bee corrects and explains to. And so this is how they always target it. This is how they work it. Just like if you went back to a plantation 170 years ago in Alabama, and you rode up in your carriage, you'd be met by several big black women. And they could speak clear English. They could probably even read. And this was their operation. And sometimes they even bossed master around, if you read the cultural histories. And the men were kept out in the barn and hardly could talk. And those women would go back there and just beat them down. Ah, you learn, you boy. Now, that's how it works in Rome. Caesar did the same thing. He'd roll into Albion or Germany or Gaul. First thing they'd do is slaughter all the men, and then they'd sit there and beat those little boys in front of their women. They'd take a teenager, slit their throat, and they'd say to the women, "You keep them in line or we're going to kill all of them." And those women would just absolutely suppress their men forever back in Rome or wherever they were taken to plantations. Austria, you name it. It's all, and I've got all the handbooks on it. These are all public. We've shown them to you on air. I've got slave manuals from the sugarcane operations in the Caribbean. What was the former name of what's Haiti and Dominican Republic? Hispaniola. I got a manual from Hispaniola, 1701. Got to dig that back out. I mean, this is how they run it, and they run it well. They know exactly what they're doing. You seen all the old black and white movies from the 30s and 40s where they phased it out, political correctness, where it shows the black mammy running everything? My dad grew up in East Texas cotton farming, and with black foreman women who were bossing around the poor white farm hands. This is how it works. And that's basically what Oprah Winfrey is. And that's how the globalists operate, okay? And you need to get that through your head. You need to understand they know scientifically what they're doing, okay? I remember reading in some of the Caribbean manuals, which were then exported and translated into English for use by the slave owners here in what is the United States today, in Virginia and other areas, and it described how even when they took slaves off the boat, they would, and they even cited the Roman manuals, how they would take the biggest, strongest, clear leader of the blacks that survived. You could always tell by everybody looking to them, to kind of get their orders, who was seen as the dominant black male, getting whoever survived the coffin ship off, whether it was Boston or New York or Galveston, Texas, or New Orleans, Louisiana, and they're getting them off the ship. They bring them up there to the block. But before they even do that, they would beat to death or kill one of the strongest, most intelligent, obvious leaders in front of the women, and then they would have their translator explain it all to them. I mean, they got it all figured out, okay? Feminism, CIA funded, the whole deal. And they've done a good job. Look, our society's completely destroyed. All right, getting back to the eco-fascist, Adolf Hitler. First you get the women, then you got the children, so follow the men. Adolf Alois Hitler. Continuing, eco-fascist call for prison cities. People who resist the state control of every aspect of their lives will be forced to live in ghettos. And you just saw that from the piece. And they admit that there'll be farming run by the state. Continuing, Stalin organized land, labor into large-scale collective farms. Farmers who resisted state taking over their farms, that'll be big agribusiness doing it, were arrested and sent to Siberian gulags. As a result, the mass seizure of property and the disruption that collected farming brought to food production, upwards of 3 million people died from starvation from 1932 to 33 alone. Well, yeah, that was just Ukraine. There's over 20 mil in the starvation overall. A similar system imposed in Maoist China under the Great Leap Forward led to the Great Chinese Famine and the starvation of at least 36 million people, and that was planned as well. We've had top historians on that subject. The incarceration of resistors and green fascism inside squalid ghettos and their subsequent separation from family members is a frightening throwback to Nazi-run Warsaw Ghetto and other concentration camps and prisons within cities that housed Jews and political dissidents during World War II. The restriction or even outlawing of meat, something already being vehemently pushed by eco-fascists, we have links to them saying it, to the point where a hamburger becomes a rare delicacy to be enjoyed on special occasions. Yeah, the state on your birthday might give you a little meat. And only then if you can afford it. Well, that sounds like a North Korean prison camp. And Watson continues to write, as my wife, who is Chinese, will attest, up until the late 80s, before China started to lift itself out of poverty, meat was a rare treat that was sparsely available and highly restricted. Again, the planned opolis is nothing less than a fusion of communist and fascist control measures inflicted upon population to keep them poor, starving, and weak. The people who produced this video, funded by the monolithic elitist bankers and corporations like Royal Dutch Shell, Bank of America, as well as British government, Paul has a link to this group, an article about who they're funded by, know very well that every aspect of their planned opolis is lifted directly from the most abhorrent and brutal dictatorships in history. And they go on to admit that, and they know it. They're very proud of it. They are openly flaunting the eco-fascist ideology behind the Green Movement. They now call themselves eco-fascists. It's a total embracing of this Hitlerian system. Of course, as made clear in the video, none of the regulations or controls will apply to any of the elitists, imposing them on the rest of us. See, it looks like a joke in that video because it's meant to flaunt it, to break your will. Think Al Gore and his multiple oceanside mansions with heated swimming pools. They will still be able to roll around in SUVs and mansions with heated swimming pools. They will still be able to, again, roll around and fly around their private jets while quaffing the finest filet steak and belching tons of CO2 as they lecture the rest of humanity about their carbon footprint. Think Prince Charles and his insistence that the proles not be allowed to take a bath as he lounges in a luxuriant splendor of royal palaces. Call Watson up. There's a Phantom S right there at number 8. Continuing, they are also engaged in a ploy to shift the parameters of the Overton window, which is defined as a range of political policies considered to be politically acceptable in the current climate of public opinion. By constantly bombarding us with extreme and repugnant proposals, they gradually wear down the human psyche until people begin to accept draconian controls over their personal lives as normal, necessary, and reasonable. The mind is so strong and ready to face adversity that when you hear about war with Iran coming forever, you subconsciously almost want to see it go ahead and happen. Or when you hear about mass die-off of humanity promoted by Discovery Channel and all these shows and how it's coming, you almost want to get it over with, see? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. This is part of the reason behind last year's Splattergate controversy, where global warming alarmists, again funded by government and big business, produced an infomercial in which children who refused to lower their carbon emissions were slaughtered in an orgy of blood and guts. We're going to play that in a minute. This is a psychological attack and a realization of the stepping stone method to tyranny. Whereas we might not accept cars being banned or meat being rationed now, we will accept incandescent light bulbs being outlawed and paying carbon taxes on fuel. What's so great about Watson? I called up to him for 10 minutes and just spewed information, and he just sat there without even writing notes and spewed it all right back out with precision, and then added his own understanding overlay to this article and wrote this article in about 30 minutes. Got to salute Paul Watson. What an incredible job. I can't believe he got all of this exactly right. Spewed at him at 100 miles an hour as I was ranting and guzzling coffee, walking around in my backyard. This is a psychological attack and a realization of the stepping stone method to tyranny. Whereas we might not accept cars being banned and meat being rationed now, we will accept incandescent light bulbs being outlawed and paying carbon taxes on fuel. As each hurdle is cleared, the globals propose something more extreme so that we will always come to a compromise and accept a slighter, lesser tyranny. But in the long term, the elitists achieve all of their goals with aplomb. Continuing, it's good to read a piece that's just so precise. I love exposing the globalist. And to top it all off, the debate between the liberals over at the Guardian website, in response to the story, did not revolve around a castigation of the authoritarian future hell, but a question on whether old people should merely be advised by government workers how to kill themselves when they reach 65, or whether the state should just kill them directly. Remember Bill Joy, owner of Sun Microsystems, writing 12 years ago now, how he went to an elitist meeting of other computer owners, billionaires, and they had debates all weekend about, do we just kill everyone, or do we entertain them and build a false reality for them because they're not needed because of computers anymore and robotics. Human life just isn't cheap, it's worthless. And the decision is that you're bad for the earth. I'm bad. So we're dead. And now they're just teaching us by increment how to die. Remember last year, the cover of Newsweek, the case for killing Granny? Oh, there's no death panels, but we want to kill Granny. And then I saw the Newsweek the week before that. I can hardly ever even read it. It's so painful. They had a weird article with a Grim Reaper with two old people and how beautiful it is to commit suicide. But the globalists, they don't commit suicide. Dick Cheney has a bionic heart. They've added a bionic part onto it, a pump. He's trying to get a heart transplant right now. You notice he's clinging. You notice the big head, Mr. Jobs of Apple, who funds all this eugenics and promotes it endlessly. You notice he got a liver transplant. It was a little suspicious how fast he got it. Went out to Tennessee to get it. No discussion of where that goodie came from. I got a good idea. Oh, but he's got something to offer, doesn't he? Uh-huh. And as if that isn't even enough, they're not just wanting to get rid of the dumbed down people, which is horrible. No, their real target is those that are smart. That's why they put sterilants and IQ reducers in the water. And see, I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I've got enough fight in me when people openly write how they're doing that to me. I tend to get mad, and I tend to get organized, and I tend for 16 years on air to try to build an InfoWars weapon system to defend my family. And to defend my family, I've got to defend everybody else. We all hang together or hang separate. I'm getting chills right now, ladies and gentlemen. I want to beat these people. I want to take them on. I want to bring them down. But it's going to take you waking up and getting your guts going, getting your good old boy guts turned on, and getting focused. You know, the enemy loves to teach us that we've already lost. We haven't lost. We've won. They're taking on a bold operation, and they're going to fail. They will fail 100% if you simply decide to take action against them effectively. A lot of us have committed ourselves 110%. The least you can do is get active. So they go on to debate, do we just kill the old people or ask them to kill themselves? This is all being openly discussed, and it's all liberal. It's all loving killing people. This kind of despotic destiny is not only being pushed by the elite, it has an army of greenwashed zombies behind it who have been recruited to make the demon side of the elderly to useless eaters an intellectually acceptable and reasonable idea. Presumably, the disabled and the mentally ill will also be exterminated in the pursuit of the highly efficient planned opolis, another idea of which Hitler would have vehemently approved. He actually designed with Albert Speer the mega cities and the environmental grid. Meat would not be allowed. You will not be allowed. I mean, it's total. It's all happening. Just cops are laughing right now because they've been preconditioned. Just go ahead, laugh all you want. Go ahead and laugh. You're part of the structure. You're going to win, aren't you? No, you're not going to win. You're already being killed. Once government is given the power to kill anyone they deem to be unproductive, this collectivist Orwellian nightmare, the gates of hell are now thrown wide open. In comparison, meat rationing, carbon taxes, eco-surveillance, calorie credits, and transport restriction will seem like a walk in the park.